Are you wondering how to follow Islam? Are you confused by the divisions in the Ummah? Are you wondering what Allah wants from us? Join me and my guest for our brand new series of Noah's Ark in a minute.
There is no man more dear to me throughout the whole of history than the one who was sent as a guide, leading people from darkness to light. His message was simple and clear, that there is one God whom we must all fear, inviting people towards Allah. His name is Muhammad Mustafa. His name is Muhammad Mustafa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome viewers to our brand new series of the Ark of Noah. With me in the studio for our series, which will be running for quite a number of episodes, is Sheikh Moutassem AlHameedi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to the set.
Thank you very much, Abdullah.
We are honoured to have you here.
I am honoured as well.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Jazakallah khair.
And we will be discussing in this very important series a variety of different subjects. And we're going to focus on the importance of discussing this subject. We're going to be mentioning the significance of the Ark of Noah, a story, a true story told from many years ago, and its significance today. And we're going to be discussing the state of the Ummah and the division which unfortunately has appeared in it, and the methodology of trying to arrive at the right path. We're also going to be discussing what Allah wants from us. So what does Allah want from us, and what does Allah want from you? And finally we'll be mentioning something a little bit different, what we in the studio will be expecting from you, the viewers. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh, once again.
Wa alaikum assalam, jazakumullah khair, Abdullah. Very happy to be with you here and with the viewers as well.
Thank you very much. Can you just give us a little more information on the importance of discussing this topic?
Actually, this topic is, to me, the way I see it, is of paramount importance for Muslims today. Muslims generally wonder about the right approach to Islam, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to be as Muslims, living at this day and age. What is the ideal Muslim that Allah wants us to be at this time? How can we implement Islam in our private life? How can we relate to people around us, to the world around us, and yet be the right Muslim or the ideal Muslim, following the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? So the importance of the topic is about the essence of this life, because obviously everybody knows that we are here in a test, and as long as we are in a test, we have to make it to the hereafter. So the whole meaning of this life, of our existence, is to make it to paradise. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the tool to arrive to paradise. He gave us the right path, the straight path, which is Islam. How to arrive at the true path, or how to keep on the true path, the straight path, to make it to paradise. How can we make that? Allah gave us the revelation, but people's approaches to revelation has changed. People have different approaches to revelation. Some people depend on emotion, some people depend on pure intellect, some people depend on traditions, on personal interpretations. But what is the correct understanding of Islam that Allah wants us to arrive at?
So we're going to be talking about this and Islam in the context of our modern society as well.
That's exactly what we will be trying to do. We'll try to see the pristine message of Islam, the pure message of Islam, try to see how it functions and how it works in our present reality, because sometimes people get distracted because the time is different, the environment is different, the culture is different, but the approach in essence is always the same.
Sheikh, you also mentioned that the variety of different paths that people have followed within Islam itself, and this is a phenomenon that we've seen from the peoples of the very first peoples to appear after Adam alayhi salam, this going or deviation, let's say, from the true path. What will you be saying a little bit about that?
Well, obviously we're going to dwell on this for some time, because it's one of the most important issues today that Muslims face. Because as a person, probably like yourself, when you first came to Islam, you were faced with different understandings, different groups, everyone claiming to be on the true path, or claiming to be on the way of the Prophet ﷺ. The same applies to even Muslims. When they reach the age of puberty or reason, and they start to check the things around them, try to reason with the reality around them, they try to find their way. Obviously they're faced with different methodologies, different personalities, claiming to be on the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The confusion is there.
And everybody does claim, don't they?
Obviously everybody claims to, because that's the only way in Islam. And this is what Islam is. It's the way of the Prophet ﷺ, just in the Quran and the Sunnah. So everybody claims to have this. Obviously this causes a great deal of confusion. Now we will try to break things down, and we will be depending solely on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, and we will support that by explanations from the scholars, just to make sure that we distill from the Quran and the Sunnah the right methodology, the right strategy to follow the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ at all times, regardless of who the people you're dealing with, what kind of age and technology and culture you have to handle on a daily basis. You still have the tools to arrive at the correct understanding of Islam.
Okay.
So we'll try to save people, or try to get them, help them, give them the tool to get out of this confusion and make their way, because they will be questioned by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by themselves. No one to defend them.
No. So, Shaykh, we want to discuss the significance of the title, The Ark of Noah. Can you give us a little bit about why that name was chosen for this particular series?
Thank you for this very interesting question. Actually, the reason I thought about this, the Ark of Noah, or this kind of analogy, is that the famous statement by Imam Malik. And we know the famous Imam, a great scholar of Ahlul Sunnah, Imam Malik ibn Anas, may Allah have mercy on him. He had a deep understanding of Islam, and he had a beautiful statement that was recorded in the books and is still circulated among many circles, especially the circles of knowledge, of people of knowledge. He said one day that the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is the Ark of Noah. It's a profound analogy. It's the Ark of Noah. Those who get on board, they will be saved. So it will be the safe haven. And those who refuse to get on board, these people will lead themselves to destruction. Now the profoundness of the analogy is that at the time of Noah, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the punishment of the flood, the only way to survive that flood was to join Prophet Nuh alayhi salam. There was no other means of survival. Obviously the people of his time, the non-believers or the people who refused the message, they thought they would find safe haven on top of the mountains, or they could get on board other ships, but there was no way for survival.
And even his son, in fact, chose to stay on the mountain.
Definitely, Nuh himself told him, as occurs in Surah Hud, he said to him, "La asima al-yawma min amri Allahi illa man rahim." No one will be saved from this punishment of Allah except those who have received Allah's mercy. So Allah's mercy was, at that time, on board, only getting on board.
SubhanAllah.
So this is why this parable is profound, that the only ones who survived that flood and the tide of that flood were the ones who joined Nuh alayhi salam on board. And similarly, no one will survive the overwhelming tide of fitna, trials, confusion and bewilderment that we live in today, except by joining the Prophet ﷺ in his Sunnah. So it's just like the Ark of Noah. So those who join it will survive and will make it to paradise. Those who refuse to do that, obviously will lead themselves to destruction. So this is why I chose this parable, because I thought parables are very revealing. Sometimes you can talk for hours, but it just summarizes the whole thing in one sentence.
So what significance does this have today, when even Muslims themselves, they are perhaps of course they're following Quran, but they're perhaps neglecting the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And even you have people who are now saying that we don't need to follow the Hadith, we have the Quran, and the Quran is the word of Allah, so we should follow this. Does that have any significance from your statements?
It definitely, it comes in very handy, because just as Umar ibn Khattab, may Allah be pleased with him, said, he said, إِذَا جَادَلَكُمْ أَهْلُ الْأَهْوَاءِ بِالْقُرْآنِ فَجَادِلُوهُم بِالسُّنَّةِ فَإِنَّ الْقُرْآنَ حَمَّالُ وُجُوهِ. He said, when the people of desires, the people of the wrong understanding of Islam, when they approach you for arguments, they will obviously use statements from the Quran, because the statements of the Quran are very general. The Quran is the book of general guidance to humanity. It provides guidance for all times. So this is why the statements are very general. And this is why it's very intensive and very profound. So he said, if they approach you for the sake of argument with verses from the Quran, you argue with them based on the Sunnah. Why? Because the Sunnah is very specific. It explains and limits the generalities of the Quran, puts them in the right contexts. Because when you deal with general statements, you can always copy and paste, and you can put them in whatever context you wish, so to serve your own purposes. But when it comes to the Sunnah puts the Quran in the right context. That's exactly what Umar ibn Khattab said. And this is what we will be trying to do. When people claim that you can only depend on the Quran today, the reason why they say this, because they want to maneuver, they want to play around with the religion, but they can't do that with the Sunnah being there. But if they neglect the Sunnah, they can obviously play with the Quran around to serve their own purposes. So we will put the limitations for that. We will put the Quran in its right context. So inshallah we have the correct approach to Islam. And you know, when we talk about the Sunnah, Abdullah, we are not talking about the limited meaning of the Sunnah, that whatever has been reported from the Prophet ﷺ in terms of speech, action, manners, behavior, whatever it is, it's actually more than that. The Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is clear in his statements, in his actions, in his description, and in his overall attitude, and also in the example of his companions, because these are his teachings being materialized in human beings, normal human beings as we are.
Okay, Shaykh. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break there. Stay tuned, stay with us.
To Medina, our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and his companions faced lots of troubles and difficulties and enmities and obstacles in the way to Medina before the hijrah to Medina from Mecca. Also, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has assisted his beloved Prophet and supported him in order to complete his mission and to immigrate to Medina. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted us this great Prophet and his companions. Now the question, why the immigration to Medina, the hijrah of Rasulullah and his companions, was a turning point in the history of hijrah and the history of Islam. My dear brothers and sisters, what are the sacrifices that the Prophet Muhammad has faced with his companions? Some of these difficulties, inshallah, we will learn together, and we will focus in some lessons. What are the lessons that we take from these incidents, inshallah, in our program, Road to Medina? My dear brothers, stay tuned with us, inshallah, in this great event of hijrah. We will, inshallah, focus on some of the lessons in this program, Road to Medina. May Allah make it easy for us and accept our good deeds and gather us with our beloved Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in Jannah. Ameen.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, viewers, to our series, our brand new series of Noah's Ark. with me in the studio, as you know, Sheikh Moutassem. Sheikh, just before the break we were discussing the importance of the Ark of Noah,
Yeah.
and the significance of that title, both all those years ago and today, of course, in modern society. And we outlined really the importance of the whole issue. Can you tell us a little bit about what viewers themselves can hope to learn from this, in sort of give them a few points that they can hope to learn?
Yes, obviously the viewers, actually the whole show was designed to try and provide our viewers with the tools, the strategy to answer the questions you asked previously, is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us. How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to be as Muslims living at this day and age? Muslims living at I say the 15th century, and I don't say the 21st century because we have our own calendar as well. And the world did not start like 2,000 years ago. There were many different calendars. So there's nothing wrong with holding on to our calendar. That's part of the Ark of Noah. That's part of the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So how does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to be? That should be the question. How does Allah want us to behave, to act, to believe in, obviously? How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to approach ourselves, the people around us, the Muslims, the non-Muslims? How does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala most importantly want us to approach the Quran and the Sunnah? Because many people approach the Quran and the Sunnah, but they have a wrong understanding. They don't resort to the right approach. There are always temptations, there are always their own ambitions, and they're trying to impose their own perspectives, their own ambitions on the Quran and on the Sunnah. And they can always find a room for that. If they decide to do it, you can always find a room for that. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it clear in the Quran, through the detailed guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, that if you hold on to that, you will be guided. You will definitely be guided. The Prophet ﷺ in the famous hadith said, when he was in the farewell Hajj, a few months before his death, actually probably just about 2 months before his death, he said that I left among you two things. If you hold on to them, you will never go astray. It's the Book of Allah and my Sunnah. The Book of Allah and my Sunnah. And as I said, when we talk about the Sunnah, we're talking about the general sense. The Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ constitutes whatever we could find in the person of the Prophet ﷺ and whatever we could find in his own students.
Okay, so we're talking about what Allah, we're going to give to the viewers what Allah wants from us as Muslims in the modern day. What about modern society? What are we going to talk about there?
Yes, obviously Islam, there's a problem that we have to live in our time. Now we can't use the same terminology as the people who lived 1,000 years ago. And this is something Imam Ibn al-Qayyim talks about in his book Madarj al-Salikin. He has a very beautiful statement. It's a methodology in terms of da'wah that we can use it when we give da'wah, when we plan for our da'wah, when we plan for the approach that we use to explain to others about Islam. He says, لا بد من مخاطبة أهل كل زمان بالاصطلاح الذي يعرفون. We have to talk about each people at each time, at each age, using the language they understand. Then he says that because if we tell them about the early generations of Islam, and these are the generations we will focus on because these were the students of the Prophet ﷺ. This is where the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ materialized in human form. We have them now in theory, we have them in books, we have them stored in cassettes and in different formats. But the example of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ and the Tabi'een, the generation that came after them, and the third generation as well, it was the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ materializing in human form. So this is the profoundness of that generation, or of these three generations. So as we talk about our times, we will try to describe them and describe their way or their behavior, their approach to the religion. We'll try to describe it in a language we can relate to today, our viewers can relate to. So we will start to see the vividness of Islam, that Islam is a religion. Islam doesn't call us to withdraw from life and live as hermits in our retreats, keeping away. No, Islam actually tells us to live life to its full. We have to reach the ultimate, the apex of life in Islam. This is why Imam al-Qayyim as well, and I will refer to Ibn al-Qayyim so many times because he's a profound scholar. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not send the Quran, and He did not send the Prophet ﷺ only to fix our akhirah, our second life, our next life. Rather, Allah sent the Prophet ﷺ and the guidance of the Quran to set things right in this life and in the next.
I think I remember Umar bin Khattab saying something fairly similar.
Yeah.
Sheikh, so there's two topics there: the importance of Deen, what Allah wants for us, and what other sort of subjects? What other subjects would you be going a bit further into to help us in our understanding of our situation and how to get to the Deen that Allah wants?
Yes, actually, we will start with to draw the attention of our viewers to start to appreciate what we already have, because in the midst of what's happening today, the humiliation the Muslims are going through, the fact that Muslims are in many senses are inferior, many people lose track of a very important fact, that we still possess, we have in hand the most precious gift humanity has ever had. We have Islam, and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ were aware of that even at the darkest moments. You know, after the Battle of Uhud, which was considered to be a setback for Muslims, Abu Sufyan was trying to chase the Prophet ﷺ and Abu Bakr and Umar ibn Khattab, and he said to them that this is a day of revenge. We have avenged our dead ones in the Battle of Badr. Okay, so you're paying for what you did. This is what he said to them, and we have our victory today. What did Umar ibn Khattab reply to him? Umar ibn Khattab said to him, he said, we're not equal. Imagine, at this time the Muslims are having a setback. The people of Quraysh considered they had a victory, yet the hearts of the companions and the Prophet ﷺ were attached to the eternal realities. Now this is something on the surface. You can probably, overcome your enemy. Okay, something like that, it changes over the years. You could have one round, but your enemy has other rounds as well. But the eternal realities is who is making it to paradise, who's making it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Umar ibn Khattab was aware of this. So when Abu Sufyan was bragging about their victory, Umar ibn Khattab had said to him, we're not equal. Your dead ones are in the hellfire, our dead ones are in paradise. So don't brag, don't come and boast about your victory. We're not equal. And when Abu Sufyan was trying to say that we avenged our dead ones, and he said, U'lu Hubal. He said, let Hubal, our God, be the highest. Umar ibn Khattab replied, obviously based on the instructions of the Prophet ﷺ, that it's not the same. Allah is above. Allah is above. So even if we feel weak, if we feel a bit overcome, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that we have the most precious gift humanity has, and the rest of humanity need that. It's our responsibility to share it with them.
So we're going to be helping the viewers to try and attain this right Deen and and give them some sense of the importance of Deen, so we can put it back into our lives.
Yes.
We're also going to be talking about the situation of the Ummah, and you're going to be talking a little bit about division and separation.
Yes.
Could you tell us a little bit about that? What's in store for us there?
Yes, to answer this question, Abdullah, somebody might just be thinking right now is, why do you have to talk about divisions and the different groups and different understandings when the Ummah is weak? Now, we have to understand that as we have the most precious gift that humanity has, and we have the highest status among the rest of humanity, if we hold on to Islam, once we appreciate these, we will then, our attention will be naturally move to trying to figure out how we can preserve these, how we can extract maximum benefit of this wonderful gift. And once we start to appreciate this and appreciate the importance of having the right tools, the right methodology to preserve our deen, and that will help us make it to paradise, then we will realize that we have to be aware of the divisions in our ummah, so I don't fall within a group that actually will lead me to the hellfire. And I will not adopt an understanding that will lead me to the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So once we understand the importance of our deen and the high station we can occupy as an ummah, if we hold on to this beautiful and pure deen, we will understand the necessity of these tools that will help us preserve our deen and implement it right, just as the Prophet ﷺ and his companions had.
Okay, finally, Sheikh, just before we go to a break,
Yeah.
could you also tell us what we expect from the viewers, just very quickly, if you can?
Okay, so as we are closing this episode, I really hope that it's our responsibility to tell our viewers what is the right methodology to hold on to Islam and to follow Islam, which the Prophet ﷺ and his companions were upon, which is the form of Islam that Allah is pleased with. Their responsibility is to follow, try to listen, and inshallah we will give practical tips, helping them, we'll try to hold their hands and walk them step by step on how to follow the example of the Prophet ﷺ without losing the element of being relevant to our world today. So what I will ask of them to do is please try to be practical. Whatever tips we share with you, try to implement them. Check yourself, your whole approach to Islam. Does it fall within the verses and the hadith that we will be quoting, or do you need to make more effort, inshallah, to get closer to the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ?
Okay, thank you very much, Sheikh. Viewers, a taste of what's to come in this very important series, the Ark of Noah. Join us next time for the next episode. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
There is no man more dear to me throughout the whole of history than the one who was sent as a guide, leading people from darkness to light. His message was simple and clear, that there is one God whom we must all fear, inviting people towards Allah. His name is Muhammad Mustafa.